It is a huge honor to be interviewing Bill Rossi today, who is the most, you own Minnesota. I mean, you are the most down-to-earth, real-world practice management consultant who's been knocking it out. For how many years have you been doing this?
Almost 30, I think 35, Howard.
How many people have told you look just like Mike Totola?
I think Mike Totola looks better than me, I must say.
I don't know. You're both two charming, handsome individuals. I love both of you guys. You really are the real deal. And what I love about you is you have the big picture philosophies, and you have so much nitty-gritty operations and logistics details. I want to ask you the first question is and we'll get to our talking points and all that stuff. Yeah. But my very first question is something that a lot of people are thinking. The big 4,000-pound elephant in the room is managed care. And how many years have you been doing this? You say
35 years.
So you and I are old enough to when we started a lot back in the day. There was Orthodontic Centers of America on the New York Stock Exchange, and everybody thought they were
Jonathan Dental up here, bunch of those.
They were saying back in 1990 that someday all the orthodontists would work for Orthodontic Centers of America, and then they fell apart and disappeared. There were a dozen on NASDAQ, and then they all fell apart. They were gone for a decade. Now they're all back with a vengeance, and a lot of people are saying that the way to fight or to compete against these guys is you got to have a niche market and you shouldn't take insurance, and you should be this boutique practice. First of all, how big of a market presence is big corporate multi-location corporate dentistry? In 10 years from now, are they going to be double in size, or are we going to see the same fallout again? And how does an individual dentist compete and build a thriving practice when you got a corporate chain across the street from you?
Yeah, we're seeing it here. I don't know. I think it might be 20%. I think it's less than that probably. And, I try not to predict the future because I have to stay in the moment. I have to stay with what is real, not what I think is real. And so will be real. So I'm looking at my client data and stuff, and we have Aspen Dentals up here, Midwest Dental Centers, which is kind of came out of Wisconsin, went from like 80 to 150 centers in a while. And Pacific Dental has 4 units here. Heartland's breaking into the area. But most of my guys are doing okay. I kind of see our role is giving them the same advantages of professional management. But they each keep their individual things. So I would not go elitist. To me, everything's a matter of balance. You don't go too crazy on the PPOs. You don't go elitist. You don't get too boot. Most of my guys are middle-of-the-road guys. They want to do 20 or 30% better. They don't want to change their personalities or their religion or their lifestyle. They just want to have a thriving practice. And I kind of say to corporate dentistry, bring them on, because you have an advantage over the pharmacists who we know have been kind of wiped out. Who hands you your pills is not that big a deal. Who sticks their fingers in your mouth and you have to see over and over again and I think that will help save us.
Well, I mean, it seems like every new patient I see has already seen 5 or 6 dentists and they're not happy. So how is a corporate entity going to stop that? I mean, it really comes down to the doctor-patient relationship.
Yeah, and corporations, they do hire dentists. And some of those Metro Dental and Park Dental are big, group practices here. We use corporate dentistry, and I know it's not accurate, but that's what everyone knows what you're saying when you say corporate dentistry. But they were a great associate here, someone that's a Park Dental or Metro Dental refugee. They've worked there 1 to 5 years. They've got speed, they've got perspective, and they come out and they're perfect associates. So I look at them as sort of boot camp for some great associates.
So you manage 250 practices.
Or 212 practices with about 275 to 350 dentists, depending on how you count full-time equivalents.
Now, you got about 7,000 dentists listening to this. If someone wants to get your help, do you do any state, or do you do a region, or?
My whole model is based on the idea that management's a process. And so instead of flying all over the place and coming in and, God, I go crazy if every week on Wednesday I was on manual 3, paragraph 3, doing the same week over and over again. I would have, gone Branch Davidian 35 years ago. But set the belly on fire, run out of the belly, run back into it. That's what I would have done. And so we are regional. Now, on special missions, like on a PPO exorcism or some kind of thing like that, we'll get on airplanes. And so I have a client or two in Detroit, and I get around stuff, but we're mostly regional folks. Now, I'm on a mission with the PPO stuff because I want to level the playing field with dentists. And I can do that a lot of times by phone. And they don't have to get into some big consulting deals. So we do national type stuff like that. The other thing I'm big on is the thing I did the continuing ed for you guys for, which is clinical calibration, which to me is the ethical foundation for great dentistry, whatever type of model of practice it is. And those are my two national missions. But my day-to-day management is pretty regional.
Okay, let's talk about. Let's go right to the PPO. I mean, money's the answer. What's the question? How does a person analyze the PPO? Because my pet peeve, you're talking about your mission. My pet peeve is that they all run their office with what they call, quote, a management information system, but it doesn't even have an accounting package. So they
you're pissed. It doesn't have.
Your schedule,
the revenue and expense sides.
I mean, how insane is that? Why is that? Are they just? I mean, it's the dumbest thing in dentistry. It's the single biggest crime in dentistry because that schedule knows that Dr. Amy takes 1 hour to do this procedure. The PPO she just signed up for has the fee.
Yeah.
We should know if you're doing your payables and receivables, rent, mortgage, equipment bill, computer, insurance, malpractice, updates, professional fees. We should know your hourly costs because I know Amy, and she's smart. She got A's in calculus and physics and chemistry and biochem. And if you told her, look, you do this and you'll lose $20 on every filling, well, she say, well, then I ain't doing it. But she doesn't know that data. So how does a guy like you, if I'm listening, I'm driving into work right now, and I say, I want Bill to analyze my PPOs. What are you going to do? First of all, how much does that cost? He calls you, and how do you figure that out?
It costs nothing to call me. Usually, again, I don't believe in missing words. A couple grand usually is what I do when I do a PPO assessment on a practice. And here's what I found. There's trying to analyze in great detail the costs or which codes are being paid what doesn't change the course of action. So when the analysis doesn't change the course of action, you don't overdo the analysis. So what happens is often when I get someone, I look at the penetration of the various PPOs to see how deep they're in with the various PPOs. Okay? And then it's a matter of finding balance. So let me give you an example of this. For our East Coast client that had an accountant, I was working on a MetLife exorcism and dealing with some other PPOs there. Now, don't sue me, MetLife. It could be any kind of thing or whatever. Okay. So I had the accountant, and this is Alan Schiff, who did a good job of this. He surveyed 60 dentists on the East Coast because I don't have a feel for that there in the mix. And I got this here. And I have a point. I'll get to it. And here's the deal. The 54% of the offices with a Blue Cross Blue Shield there, 46% MetLife, 51% Aetna, 58% Cigna, United Concordia, 58%, and other 61. About 5 out of 5 of the offices, about 26% of the offices in this area were with all the plans, and about 21% were with none of the plans, and then everyone else is in between. Okay, so here's the model I have. When I went to that office there, I go, you know what, you could dump, let's say, United Concordia. It's only 10% of your patient base, but your discounts there are 4 points off your top line, and if you can otherwise keep busy and keep most of those patients and you do things the way you can add, 2-3 points to your bottom line. But first, before you get in a fight, call and negotiate. The lady goes, I'm a tough negotiator. I already tried. And I said, well, they don't negotiate sometimes till you throw down. So tell them you're going to drop. She said, I'm going to drop. The next day they had a suit from that insurance company and gave her a big raise. So then we went on to the next PPO. Here's my thing. There's all these PPO negotiators. But if you don't have a credible threat of a drop, you can't do it. If the union can't strike, you don't have any muscle. So the guy has to know that the doctor, the person on the phone calling says, I can pull the trigger and I'm out of here. And then sometimes they'll deal even when they say they won't. So we went to the next PPO and I said, that's 15% of your patient base. And if you lose all 15% of your patient base tomorrow, that would be bad. But if you lose, there's maybe 5%, a third of them at risk. Hard to explain everything. If you lose 5% of your patient base over 2 years, you can heal up over that. But you've added to your bottom line several points of collections. So rather than going to how much do I save a percentage point on supplies or something like that, these PPO plays are huge. But it's a matter, to bring this full circle, of having the right mix, not too little, not too many. It's sort of a clunky form of pricing nowadays. You can't just, like a gas station, turn the pricing up or down. It's a matter of bailing out or adding PPOs till you're about the right level of buoyancy.
So, what is the end result for most of these dentists? You're gonna try to get rid of the patients on their PPO plans where they're
No.
losing money
The idea is to
and
lose the
try.
discounts and keep the patients. And most people that go through the process the way I tell them, if the indicators are, most of my clients, Howard, are long term. I don't want them to get hurt any more than you guys want to hurt patients. I wouldn't be recommending stuff if I thought it was going to hurt clients. And I have longitudinal studies because I have clients that have been through these transitions and on both sides of whatever participation. So I can see how they do. And I've learned. So the point on this is you don't lose the patients if you handle things right. But I would never recommend a client get in a fight they couldn't be okay with. In other words, I've been in enough fights that you don't drop PPOs willy-nilly. You know, always negotiate first, and you do think maybe you drop one. How's my balance? How am I doing?
And that is one of the corporate dentistries. When they buy practices, that's their secret weapon. They can usually buy a practice, and by renegotiating the PPOs, they can almost pay for the practice over 5 years.
Yeah, see, this is what pisses me off. And when you buy a practice, matching up the PPOs nowadays is really important, especially, I have a client every other week doing a practice merger. But you got to be aware of which PPOs they're on and you're on to see if they match up and how you do the deal. That's the one thing that pisses me off about Heartland and others. It's fine that they can get together and do a biting club because individual dentists can't. They can do a biting club through the Mantle Brothers or Woody or whoever else, and that's fine. But if you get together with your Seattle Study Club and want to negotiate fees, that's collusion. If they have 400 practices, they can bargain. And to me, that's an unfair competitive advantage, and it should be stopped. If I was in the ADA thing, and I'm not, I'd say if there's one thing I'd ask for is that the dentists can collectively bargain, because there's a thing in economics where big business breeds big labor because they have to balance it out. If you have just one seller or just one buyer, there's too much asymmetry in the marketplace. It isn't fair.
That is very well said, very well succinct, and you know what? If you talk to them, they'll do it. I remember when I got out of school, there were four things. I went down to the ADA with Gordon Christian. I think our issues were take a stance against managed care, and national advertising, and what was the third and fourth? But anyway, their lawyer met with us. They all met with us and they listened, and over the next few years, they did basically everything we asked them to.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, they got like 200 employees with a lot of departments. They got legal. I guarantee you, if you talk to, I don't know if Svikas is the same guy running it. He was there for decades. Whenever I dealt with him, but if you explain this to the legal department, and they'll
I can't believe someone hasn't already, but okay. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
Yeah, but you have slept in a Holiday Inn Express, and you have a bald head. If you have a bald head in dentistry, you're already a legend.
Oh wait, before we go further, I got to show you this. Can you see this?
Oh my gosh! Lift it up higher. Oh my God! What year was that?
Once owned a suit.
Oh wow! I don't even have that still. Oh my gosh!
This is from your Dental Mania seminar, and I found this the other day. It was at a client's office, and I thought, man, I remember when Howard used to wear suits. Right now, thinking of you in a suit's like having a bald eagle in a bikini. It's just too obscene and weird to think about.
Will you take a picture of that and text it to me or post it?
Sure. You don't have this? Look at how good you look.
I don't even have that. Oh my God, that is hilarious. So when your big deal is you're always coaching dentists to watch 4 statistics, and you have 4 ways to make the move, and they're production, collection, exams, and production per exam. Can you go through those 4? And why are those the 4 most important statistics for you? Why do you focus on them? And go through each one and let our viewers know what they should think about those 4.
Okay. Now, I'm going to give you this. I'll give you Practice Management 101, right? The purpose of the dental office is to deliver care. We measure how much care you deliver by production, because the common denominator of all the procedures is dollars. And that way you can say if production's up, if fee increases aside, assume that care is up. Versus saying how many of everything we do every month, you never get through a deal. So production is just shorthand for care delivered. fees aside. If you want to grow, you have to produce more. To do that, you have to see more people, which I measure by exams, periodic, limited, and comprehensive, because that's the best way to measure volume in a patient. Everything in practice, everything comes from that. On the Target store across the street from my office, they measure how many people go through the cash register lines. So that's sort of the marker. Now, Charles Blair uses prophies, adult, child, and half to 49/10. I like to use exams, okay? And then you can do more. So you either have to see more people, exams, or do more for the people you see, production per exam. Production per exam is a function of services kept in-house, endo, perio, implants, and so on. And also, and most importantly, patient compliance or confluence. So that's my hierarchy of stuff. So when I go into a practice, I look at that. Then the other thing, so you either have to do more per person, see more people, and if you do either of those two, you have to get more done per day unless you're working more days. And so if I look at it that way, great. Collections you look at, because there's a huge gap between production and collections, it's not usually patients working in the office, that PPO thing we talked about. And it's not unusual for me to see doctors that are collecting like 75, 70% now, which is crazy. Like my client base right now, the average collection percentage is 85%. If I went back in time to when we both had hair and looked forward and told you that in the future my clients will average 85% collections, I would have accused myself of management malpractice in the future. But the typical doctor up here is working a couple months a year for free for Delta and other stuff. So that's my hierarchy of things, and that's how I break it down.
So a lot of people, I want to know, of your 250 practices, do you see common denominators? Like, are the ones doing better have certain technologies? Like these are big decisions. They come out of school $250,000 in debt, then they see these $150,000 CAD cams, they see $100,000 CBCTs, they see $75,000 lasers. Can you? Are those competitive advantages, or do you not see that to be correlated?
The biggest competitive advantage is a well-located office with big signage, which you've been preaching since the day you started. And it's such a huge difference. It makes all those other things seem small. I've never been able to prove, for example, that new patients went up because of CEREC. You see advertisements, we do CEREC. I mean, what the heck would the patient know what the hell that is? And so I don't think in fact, one of my clients, is Scrammy. Mike Scramstead, the CEREC guy. But even I don't think it's a cure for the common cold, the new patients in practice, everything.
Well, what's weird is, okay, now granted, I had 2 patients this week that wanted the same day crown. I mean, they specifically wanted that.
No, they wanted it. I just don't know if it's a huge practice.
Right, I agree. But you know what? In my office, I ask every person, like, if you or I come in, I said, well, Bill, here's the deal. I can do it all today, but you're going to be in this chair for 2.5 hours. Or we can do it the conventional way, and it'll be an hour today, then you'll come back in 2 weeks for 30 minutes. In my office, 4 out of 5 people just take the hour, and I'm going to come back. 4 out of 5.
Right, and that gives you the same day dentistry angle, which is all the rage now, So there's a lot of advantages to it, but if you're talking about overall success, the cone beam, the CEREC doesn't really do it. I couldn't put on a graph higher technology, new patients and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, but so let me ask a different question. Some people believe that, it's really high overheads related because you're just doing cleaning, exams, fillings. But the high margin stuff, a crown, a molar root canal, placing an implant, a denture, a partial. Can you be, or are you more likely to have more net income if you do molar endo, place implants, do dentures, partials, the big $1,000 procedures that probably have 50%?
The people that I have that net the most, my average clients probably net like 350 to 400 in that area, but for the people that net most, because they have the most patients. And so they have a lot of hygiene, and hygiene is not as profitable as doing endo, but it chugs, and so you put the endo and the implants and all that stuff as icing on the cake. I do have a few boutique type clients that do well on margin, and the profit margins look better, and that sort of thing. But if you ask me who are the wealthiest dentists, they're the busiest dentists with the most patients.
And so when you say a good location office with a big sign, which I'm on the corner of 48th and Elliott, I paid $275,000 for my lot in the grocery store. That was back in '87.
Right.
Would you see any better demographics on the dentists that went rural versus urban?
Oh yeah. Definitely. Here's the thing. It's just like you've talked about a million times. I mean, in our state, there's like 5 really tough places to practice. Edina, where I am now, Wayzata, Woodbury, North Oaks, and I think Stillwater. And these are all high income, too many dentists looking for too few dollars and too little frank decay. Now, if you go far out to Ortonville, Minnesota, Ortonville, Minnesota, I call it infinity because it's where the parallel highways of 55 and 12 merge, and they say one definition of infinity is where two parallel lines meet. They meet in Ortonville, okay? And if you go out there, you'll have lots of patients. They don't have much money, low dental IQs, lots of MA, lots of write-offs, that sort of thing. Now, the sweet zone.
Lots of MA?
Lots of medical assistants,
Okay.
Low-income stuff. Now, you can keep busy there, but that's not the sweet zone. The sweet zone is to be living about 1 hour away from a sushi bar, about 1 hour west of here. Right, we have this combination of decent income and stuff, not too many dentists. So the exoburbs say, 1 hour west of here is a sweet zone, and those doctors are just killing it. And they still sometimes have a hard time getting associates. But if you go out to farther western Minnesota, you could keep very busy and have your own airport in a city cabin if you want to do well. But what happens is, until they graduate female dentists who have grown up in the country, they're not going to get a lot of migration of dentists back to the, it's politically incorrect to say it, but, half the dentists are female. They tend to gravitate where their family is. If they're not from a small town, it's not going back to the small town.
But I've always said that the dentists wake up in the morning and they commute an hour into worse and worse and worse demographics.
Yeah.
And if they had got up in the morning and headed an hour the other way out of town, they would they'd find a place where they're actually needed. I mean, dentistry comes down to supply and demand, and franchises always have the best demographics, and dentists don't even look at demographics.
Yeah, well, they are increasingly. My clients, whenever they move, I say, don't you dare put an office where you won't put a Starbucks. You have to put a sign up so you don't have to sign up, that sort of thing. Now I have clients that are real successful in professional buildings and stuff, and part of that is merging practices because you have this kind of thing that works out. If you're in a mature area with lots of dentists and professional buildings, they're retiring now, so you consolidate practices. Okay, so there's always a way. But you're right. And why do they keep fighting over the same thing? If you gave me all of your skills and a dental degree and a suite full of equipment and say, just practice in the Mel Arts building, downtown Minneapolis, I'd say, just shoot me. I don't want to start a practice down there.
So these dentists should be looking at these your local state journals and on Dental Town and the classified ads. By the way, the classified ads on Dental Town is one of the most overlooked jewels in there. I mean, they're highly active. And they should be looking at practices for sale and their zip code for mergers and acquisitions. What should they be looking for?
Well, the classic great deal is some dentist that's retired that was sort of housebound for the last 10 years. His equipment's not worth anything. His lease is up. He sells the practice. He has a decent relationship, at least enough so I can look patients in the eye and say, I know this guy is okay. And he sells the practice, and you basically throw away the equipment and take the patients. That's your pretty one. Those things work so magnificently.
And what would be the metric on that? Would you pay per say this dentist doing how much would this dentist be doing a year, and is that related to the sale price?
Okay, now we go to the exams and production per exam. So let's say you have a dentist with a practice that's all wound down. Instead of doing like 130, 150 exams a month, which most doctors do, let's say he's doing 50. But he's doing not $500 per exam, which most doctors do around here. He's doing $300, right? So it's just really 50.
These are new patient exams or just
total exams. So I look at his total exam and go, hey, you know what? If you buy this doctor's practice, all things being equal, you do $200 more per patient than he does. Plus, you get a fresh look. Because most of you had the patients go out the back door, you got amnesia that came in the front. You see a lot of stuff you miss because you're houseblind to your patients. So you get a fresh look, but you're also more modern because most older guys, I'm stereotyping, there's always exceptions. I could hedge in. Most older guys, though, coast in the last part of practice. They kind of everything coast. And so they leave a lot of dentistry undone. And so then you go in and let's say 30 of those patients actually stick. The other 20 won't drive 15 miles to get to you or something like that. But you're doing, I got the calculator. So let's say you're doing $500. Well, okay, you're doing $10,000 on that. And you might have paid for that kind of practice, I don't know, let's see. You might have paid for that practice, $120,000, $130,000. You make
Walk
it
us
back.
through math. How'd you get $120,000? What did
I
you?
was just using a crude rule of thumb of $200 a record on that kind of thing.
$200 a record, and how long
Yeah,
was that?
and I've seen them go for $500 a record, because if you look at advertising, it costs about $300 a patient to get the phone record.
So if your new patient acquisition cost is $300 a new patient, then you can a merger and acquisition. If you could buy a practice for $250 a new patient, it'd be a hell of a deal.
It's much more predictable too, and there's more dentistry to do because you know the lay of the land. And how you handle a merger is important, the PPO issue and all the other stuff, but it's the best deal in dentistry. Everyone knows that. And that's why Midwest Dental buys a practice, okay? So look at this. I'll just do this. This is what you're looking for. And this is my January 2011 bulletin. Let's say Midwest Dental or someone buys a practice that's collecting $100,000 a month. The net on that typically is $35,000, right? The dentist typically is doing 2/3 the production, 66. So now he's not an owner, he's a worker. So you pay the dentist about a third of that with some adjustments. So the dentist makes 20. So there's 35 net income, assuming the practice is still kind of rolling. Even if you don't get economies of scale and other things, you pay the dentist 20, you got 15,000 a month profit. Okay, debt service on a practice like that's like 10,000. So you're paying the bank 120,000 a year and you get 180,000 back. Do that in the bond market.
So, Bill, you have an online course on Dental Town that we love. You've never made a post. Can you post your newsletter? Can you start a thread and post your all your past newsletters that are still relevant?
I thought if you post them there, they're copyrighted or something, that you can't do it and have it.
What's that?
Kind of protection. Like if I post my newsletters, does it mean I'm giving up the copyright to my own? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm not a lawyer, but no, I don't believe that at all. No, we
You are the man. So
on every issue like that, we worked with a law firm since day one. So when they sign those terms and agreements there, where most people just click yes, but yeah, you're protected.
Well, I'm protected because I know you mostly. And,
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask Kelly to look at that. Maybe we can post the last couple of years' bulletins because I'm kind of proud of them. They're serious economic indicators and advice, and everything I have to do I have to keep it real. I'm not trying to make everything $1 million practice. I'm trying to make most doctors, kind of normal doctors, happy and busy and organized. Not
yeah, you are the real deal. I mean, I can vouch out any day of the week. But when you just said you're not trying to make them $1 million practice, but you said your clients are averaging a $350,000 net. First, describe what
they're averaging over $1 million. My typical, if you broke it out per doctor, my doctors, including their hygienists related, are somewhere between $110,000 and $130,000 a month.
Okay, so but first tell us, what is the average office according to national statistics, the ADA?
Well, I look at an overhead survey here that comes from a company called KDB, and it surveys mature practices, so you're leaving out starting practice and retiring. You can skew the averages. But doctor average produces about 75, 80, collects about 65, something in that way. Net's about 280. With a 35% net, something like that.
But what would the American Dental Association say the average is, factoring in everybody?
I stopped. I used to look at those statistics, but I didn't wade into those because I have better statistics for my area on this, and that's what I use. Plus my own database. If I was at the office here, I show you I have this huge screen in my office, and I point this to you, and you see I have all this data because I monitor $31 million worth of dental production a month coming through my office. And I look at the screen, it's just like, here's a dashboard of what's real. And
you are one of the most positioned people. You should start a corporate chain. You would be able to manage that better than anyone.
I kind of like the idea of the dentist making the final decision. My uncle's a dentist, that's how I get it. I really am comfortable with the idea of the corporate chain is there's always going to be some homogenation. The whole beauty for me is to go into each practice and make it more of what that doctor wants that fits his personality. So it's like you don't mow down the landscape wherever you go and install the same golf course. You go, this has a really good set of sand traps. Let's leave those alone and work with it. So I see my job as helping the doctors at least keep with professional management so they're strong in the face of corporate dentistry. I don't really want to be a suit, and I want the dentist to make the last decision.
You have a very famous, well, first of all, the continuing care 10-point checklist.
Yeah.
Can you go through those 10 points?
Oh, well,
Did you
yeah.
ever commit those to memory, or is there something more
I
productive we
can
should
do
be
that
talking
from
about?
memory, but you know what I wanted to go to here, if I can switch this a little bit, switch it up a little. What I wanted to go to was um, the Management by Fear article that I wrote for you in something called the Farron Report about umpteen years ago, and then Profitable Dentist did it, because it fits better with what I've heard from your
And you're
podcast.
going to repost that on that thread you're going to start. It's going to be your first post. It's your virgin post.
I posted 20 times there. It's just like, I'm either in a meeting or racing between a meeting or working out or watching TV and having a beer. But I have to tell you, I love these podcasts because for now I can go for a walk or something and listen to it. I think this really is a cool thing you're doing. And I've listened to a bunch of them. I really enjoy it. I love one of my favorite sayings, and since you're semi-Buddhist, I think you relate to this, is there's many mountains to heaven and many paths on each mountain. And so you hear, here's the way Blasher does it, and here's, a guy I just listened to, younger guy I'm sorry, I can't, Costas.
Mark
Yeah,
Costas?
there's all these different ways to do things that are good, pretty cool. But the thing I wanted to go to is Management by Fear. That was the article, though. There's so many, everyone knows that it's important, and it's probably off the outline, I don't know. Everyone knows it's important to be hardworking, smart, have integrity, and that sort of thing, as opposed to being lazy, dumb, and sleazy. But one of the things that's left off is courage. And what happens is, you talked about that in your deal with implants, where, doctors don't get into implants. Well, that's a clinical thing. I can't really speak to it. But doctors will join a PPO not because they want to get busier or make more money. It's because they're afraid of losing patients. Or they will not fire a bad front desk person because of fear of that. Or they will not add a room because of fear of cost. Or they won't add hygiene time. So my whole thing in management is you've got to focus on maximizing opportunities versus trying to avoid loss. So Peter Drucker's deal is costs are inevitable in business. What you're looking for is result control. And so, for example, I want to talk about the hygiene thing. A doctor isn't growing. He asked me how to come out there, and I go, why am I here? I'm not growing. I love my practice, but it kind of seems like I'm stagnating. I don't know what to do. I go, well, when's the last time you had hygiene time? Well, I'm not going to add hygiene time. I'm not growing. I go, right. And he goes, well, I already have open time and hygiene. I said, if you wait, as long as you're scheduling humans, and if you wait for open time and hygiene to get to zero, you're never going to add hygiene time. You're never going to grow. Take a big risk. I mean, geez, you bought the practice or started it. What's the big risk in adding another day of hygiene? And then you'll see if someone build a brand new facility. And I was like, Doc, you built the Queen Mary, put a sailor on, So that's the angle I kind of wanted to take with you, because there's so many opportunities, like adding another room and the cost benefit for a $40,000 room. I just dealt with this last week with a client. You know what the cost benefit is? You have to use it about 10 times a month, and you're making 20% on that room.
God, why don't you send me that article for Dental Time Magazine? I've been screaming that forever. I mean, every single hospital has an emergency room. And then they call the front desk, say, I broke my tooth, and she's looking at the schedule. She doesn't have a room. So she says, well, what about coming in tomorrow or the next day? And then they make the appointment, and then they just hang up the phone and they call someone else, because it's America. They're just going to keep Googling dentists until they find someone that will see them. Why can't you just have an emergency room? There should be a room. You should add operatories until there's an operatory that went the entire day without being used.
Yeah.
And they don't get it.
Yeah, and the cost benefit when you crunch the numbers is insanely, the payoff is insanely big to do a room. I just was in Rochester in the practice there. They're looking at a $600,000 expansion plus $150,000 worth of equipment, and we ran the numbers. And they'd have to do $40,000 more a month there. They just hired a new associate. That's his wing. It's fine. They're going to make, about 20% profit on that, a margin, and go from there. And you go, well, they could save a lot of money by not doing that room, and it's risky to do it, but they have the balls to do it, or the ovaries or whatever.
So they're fear. They're living in fear. They're not going for it.
Well, these guys aren't living in fear, but there's a lot of doctors. If you practice with the same optimism and courage as when you first opened your practice, you would be making. What happens is we get older, we have more, and we're afraid of losing it. And then you clench up and you don't keep stretching, either in continuing ed or the procedures you do, or adding rooms, or doing these things. And a lot of times people, I'll just work harder. I'll just get my my crown margins better. And what they really need to do is, I'm not causing dentists. I have plenty of courage. I don't want to, but they have to find their courage again and take a little bit of courage, like in dropping a PPO makes up for a lot of work.
Well, I mean, look at the turnover even among the most elite players in the Fortune 500. I mean, go back every 10 years. What's the turn? What percent every 10 years fall out of the Fortune 500?
I don't know.
I mean, it's huge. I can only think of one that was there in 1900 that's still there in 2000. That's General Electric. I can't think of a single.
They get to coasting, and then,
I mean, I was stunned that Apple lost so much market share because they didn't bet on the six plus phone when Samsung did. I mean,
Yeah.
they decided to keep one more generation that same small size, and Samsung said, "Shit, we're going for it." And I mean, I had so many iPhone fanatic dentists who actually switched to Samsung for that bigger damn phone. It's like even Apple was afraid to just.
We get to a point where you worry more about losing something than gaining something, and then you clench up and don't grow. And so a lot of times it's kind of a cliche, but it's sort of true. Practice growth is a reflection of personal growth. And I'm Mr. Tactician and stuff, but I'll say to the doctor, come on, you can take a risk like this. You'll be fine. I would not suggest something if I didn't think there was pretty good odds of it working out for someone.
Okay, so what are you going to say? Because my goal is to guess the questions of our listeners. So I'm trying to sit here and guess what 7,000 people are making of what you're saying, and I already know what a lot of I'm 52. How old are you?
I'm 62.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Damn, you look better than I do. You are amazing. No, I'm serious, dude. You absolutely look younger than I do. I think I've had 52 Sammy Davis Jr. years. You must have led the good life. But
I just keep your picture on my wall, and I try to emulate you in that suit. So this is
well, so many of those dentists, and I went through the paint cancer. I mean, I went down to Key Biscayne for 5 different weeks. So you're saying do more exams, and they're saying do less exams. A common pinky deal is you only need 15 new patients a month, because if you did a complete exam and you did it right and thorough and presented it right, you only need 50 new patients. And they say things like, I wouldn't even know what to do with 50 new patients. What do you say to that dentist listening to this who's gone to the Pinky Institute and he's thinking, I should be doing less exams, more complete exams, more thorough exams. And this Bill Rossi guy saying do more exams.
My mantra to my team, Howard, is our job is to help our clients, not reform them. And if a doctor said on being a Pinky Dawson dentist, we'll help them with that. If you're asking me in general, so we don't try to twist our things around. Now, if you ask me in general, I think it's a dying model, not because of the clinical excellence. I mean, again, my uncle was a Pinky guy. And all that. It's just that this idea of an hour and a half new patient exam and everything. Remember you used to talk about practicism versus consumerism? Pinky's the epitome of practicism. And I'll probably get hate mail for that. But, I mean, I have a lot of respect. I have clients in that. And it is an excellent model, but it's based on what the dentist wants, not what the consumer wants. So, again, a matter of balance. You can go all the way the other way and sign up with every PPO and be open 7 days a week and stuff. And maybe you don't have enough balance in your life. So then let's put a little blancher. What's the balance you want?
I want to ask you another question. When you ask a dentist and you say, is this just all about you? I mean, do you just look in the mirror every day and say, it's all about me? Or are you focused on the patient? Are you patient focused or dentist focused? 100% say, oh man, it's all my office. I'm patient focused. And I say, okay, what are your hours? They say 8 to 5, Monday through Thursday. Are you opening evenings, weekends, Saturdays? No. So adjust just that hours. You have a lot of clients. You got 250. Do hours a game changer of a competitive advantage or not really?
They do, but there's a tighter correlation from as far as I can see in the total number of hours you're open per week than what hours you're open. Okay? So I can't prove that Tuesday evenings, for example, are better than Tuesday mornings, but I know that if you have more hours during the week, you see more patients.
So there's 168 hours in a week. How many hours should this facility be used?
Again, since I'm not the doctor's boss, I can't tell them that, but I can say this, that, for example, it's crazy not to have the phones covered on Friday. And if you're a new associate, you better be okay with doing hygiene. And if I was a new doctor in a practice and want to get some traction, I would be around Friday afternoons, and I'd learn how to do endo, or at least get it started. So, Friday afternoons, half the dentists out. In fact, 2/3 of the dentists around here are closed. So I definitely, if I was starting, would go for Saturdays and Friday afternoons and things like that because it gives you a competitive advantage. But, again, I'm not the boss. I can't say, thanks for hiring me. Now you work Saturdays.
Okay, but a lot of people say a lot of things that they just want to believe. They just want to believe it, so they say it.
Yeah.
And if you say it enough times, it's true. No one's ever going to show up on Saturday. Everybody that's tried to open
I haven't
Saturday,
been
no
able to
one showed
prove,
up.
despite all that, everyone says that. I have not been able to prove that offices that have Saturdays or Friday afternoons or evening hours have more cancellations. I think that's a myth.
But do you think the dental offices open early morning, evenings, Fridays, and Saturdays on average are more thriving, growing businesses than the
If
ones
you
that
have more
have
hours per
Monday?
week, if it just stands to reason. If you're a restaurant open 6 days a week, if you open 7 days a week, you'll have more business. If
So
you're in
how,
an office open more hours, you're available to consume more hours. And if you're in a bedroom community like Delano, Minnesota, or something in that coast I was talking about, you want to work till 7 o'clock a couple nights a week if you're trying to build a practice. If you're fat and happy, you don't need to. Yes, I would work those edges, but again, I can't command them to do it.
and by the way, to you dentists out there that said they can't find an associate, I mean, come on. The Navy finds them to go sit in an aircraft carrier for 6 months while their wife is back home. They can find an associate to give up sex for half a year at a time to go
Yeah.
on an aircraft carrier, and you can't find one in Salina, Kansas. That's just a bad attitude. I know associates that came out of these dental schools that left Phoenix, Arizona, and went to very small rural towns in Iowa and Kansas and
Right.
Nebraska, North Dakota, or signed up in the military. And most of these dentists that can't find an associate, I said they all have one thing in common: they didn't even try. You know what I mean? They didn't. They didn't even try. 5,000 kids came out of dental school last May, and you can't find an associate. So I'm down to, I'm three-quarters done with the man. What would be the best return on investment for us to talk about these last 15 minutes, the last quarter? We're in the fourth quarter of this football game.
Well, I was thinking of doing a couple more cost benefit things, but I think we'll leave that. Let me think a sec here. I'm going to go over to the case presentation thing because I
Okay.
listened to the stuff you have with Blanchard and I just Bill Blanchard and others, and that's where we have a Dentaltown CE, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of. And it kind of ties in with this. And I know we're off outline, Howard. Thanks for putting up with this. But here's the deal. I work with dentists with all kinds of different things. I do have Hanky Dawson type guys, and I have people that do LDI and and all kinds of different sort of clinical protocols or religions, whatever you call it. And then I work with doctors that have multiple doctors and hygienists in practice. And one of the things that I was really bugged about early on was, this thing that your crown and bridge percentage should be 33% or something. That really bothered me, and it bothered my clients too, because I'm sitting down with a doctor saying your crown and bridge percentage should be 33%. Where the hell did that come from? Well, it should be 33. So I do all my crown and bridge, and I'd be in these insane arguments with the doctors, and they would get defensive about, well, I'm doing all the crown and bridge I should and stuff. And so I go, how do I reconcile this? I was in this one practice when I was first starting. Well, it happened more than once. And I'd be sitting in practice, and the hygienists are all arms folded and all negative act. And I go, why are you guys giving me so much attitude? And they said, well, the consultant before came through here, and all he did was do this. And I go, what do you mean all he did was do this? And they said, all he did was, making his, for the listeners, his hands wave. He goes, just fire up the panels. So they saw that the consultant's job was to push panels for profits. And I go, God, I never want to be that guy. I never want to think in terms of quotas for healthcare. To me, it's just the opposite of that. So you switch it to criteria. So what I do is when I get into practice, I have people get in touch with their own belief system. So when they clinically calibrate, for example, most doctors have had meetings in the last year on HIPAA, OSHA, when's the staff party going to be, collections or something, care. But they haven't had one meeting where they sat down and said, what do we believe in? When do we crown a tooth? When don't we? When do we do an implant? When do we, do endo and try to save the tooth? What types of crowns do you use here? When do we use amalgam? When do we use composite if we do both? They never even go through that. And so whenever I take them through that, I say, for example, what are your criteria to crown a tooth? And everyone else have the hygienist assistants there. Think of all the conditions that would require crowning a tooth. And so they sit down around and go, okay, large filling. Well, how large? More than half the isthmus? Well, broken top. Okay. And, they go through all the things. And then I'll have them all list their deal, and they boil it down. And then I say, okay, so would you say all the people with large fillings, root canals, all these things already have their crowns? And they go, well, no, not even close. So based on your own value systems, there's plenty out there to do. Yeah. So now we're not talking quota, we're talking criteria. So when people meet that criteria, are you recommending these services? No, we're trying to analyze their lifestyle and other things like this. So I say stop being a dental authority, be a dental advisor, and what you lose in authority, you gain in authenticity. They get great case acceptance. The doctors aren't unhappy to see me and my team because we're not trying to take them against the grain. The hygienists and everyone realize that we're trying to help people because they actually like their patients, you know? So there's my sermon.
You hear so many consultants say, well, 33% of your patients should be in a periodontal disease, soft tissue management. I mean, what if you went to a physician and he said, I'm sorry, Howard, but 8% of my patients have an STD, and so we're just going to...
number 8.
Yeah, we're just going to treat you for chlamydia. I mean, really? Really?
Or my sister Sharon shows up at the OBGYN. We got to do 20 DNCs a month. It's a 30 a month. We've done 19. I just hate that. And, of course, hygienists and everyone else hates that. So you go, okay, I'm not going to do this, but have you been really presenting things based on your criteria? Now, the real value on these conversations is when the doctor and staff talk it over, they're really kind of testing their own convictions. Now, here's my syllogism on it. As you clarify your thinking about what you feel is best for patients in actual clinical discussions with your values honestly displayed, your language clarifies. As you clarify your language, people understand better. As they understand better, they make better decisions. As they make better decisions, you get to do better stuff. As you do better stuff, you get better outcomes. So if you look at that whole chain of events, you clarify your thinking, better outcomes for patients.
Okay, you started off this hour saying that your two big national mantras are about PPO exorcisms, you called it? Does that mean Rossi's got to be Italian, so I assume you're raised Catholic?
No, I wasn't. I was Methodist, as Northern Italian. By the way, do you know the 3 best years of an Italian's life?
What?
First grade.
Love it. By the way,
don't get mad at me out there.
No, the best dinner I ever ate was with my son Eric in Venice. I lectured out in Venice, and he went with me. And I mean, we went to an Italian restaurant there, and I mean, once you eat Italian food in Venice, you realize they don't even have Italian food in the United States.
No.
Yeah. I mean, people just don't get it. It's like if you go to Mexico City and order anything that you order in America at a Mexican restaurant, they just look at you crazed, like, what are you talking about? I mean,
but I can take this. I was in Lecce in Italy, and we saw an Italian group try to do a gospel song, and they didn't get that either. So there's some things we can do. There's something.
And I ate this about $300 meal in Venice. I mean, it was this huge meal, and a bottle of wine and the whole nine yards. And I got it for free because right when I was done and getting ready to leave, this man 2 tables over, who had to be 75 and senile, he looks over at me and goes, "Are you an American?" And I'm like, yes. And he just starts tearing me a new one because I'm an American, and the owner just got up and he's all embarrassed. He throws the guy out of the deal, and then he didn't, and then he comped my dinner and he said he was so sorry. And I thought, man,
you're kidding.
That was awesome. I wish someone would yell at me at the end of every meal. But go back. I only got you for 12 more minutes. Explain why you're that clinical calibration. Now, you were talking about that within your office. Is that what you were explaining? Is that part of your clinical calibration?
On the continuing ed thing that I have on Dental Town, plus
give them the name of your course and explain that course.
It's I think in terms of clinical calibration, but if they search my name on it, something like that. It's setting clinical protocols, and I think I'm kind of the guy that instigated. I mean, I remember hearing Rick Work when he's talking about, hey, has everyone sit down and write things. I think that's because something. I mean, I've been talking about this since 1980 or something. It's because of the conflict I had about using percentages, and it works so well. And so we don't have to have lots of consults or any high pressure at all. We just do co-diagnosis, and we have a bunch of real simple. Everything I have to do has to be user friendly. Otherwise, doctors wouldn't actually do it. And I actually, I would have burned through my marketplace here a long time. If I don't keep clients happy, I don't have them.
Well, walk these young kids, because the young kids in dental school and 5 years out of school are devouring these podcasts. I mean, they're from everywhere. Walk them back through the day. Remember when we were young, when Reader's Digest took study models and x-rays to 30 different dentists, and how many treatment plans did they get?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they got 30 different treatment plans.
Yes.
And all the dentists are like, oh, Reader's Digest is so horrible, and this was just horrible for them. I'm like, dude, your mom has Reader's Digest on her nightstand, and it was grade A journalism.
Right.
I mean, the bottom line is you can't say Dentistries of Science, because if you sent a person for 20 new patient exams in your city, in your zip code, they would all come back with different treatment plans.
That's right. And I have dentists that I trust with the lives of my kids that are a completely different spectrum. But the important thing is that they're true to their own inner laws, right? And that's that many mountains to heaven, many paths in each mountain. And so I'd say to the young guy, when you want to find a practice where someone actually has discussions about this, so you can sometimes agree to disagree, but you're coming from an ethical standpoint about what's really best for patients. And then if you keep up with the science, the case acceptance takes care of itself. The production per exam goes up without having, like, for example, another statistic I do not track, and again, if others want to track it, great. I don't track the acceptance percentage because it begs the questions, what are you presenting? If a dentist says to me, I get 100% acceptance, I think they're either blind or crazy because they're not probably presenting it. So I don't go by the acceptance percentage because I don't want the staff to feel pressure, because if they feel pressure, the patient will do it. And basically, consultants will kind of treat you like the way they want to treat the patients. They're kind of canned and high pressure. They want you to be canned and high pressure. So I don't, where was I? I don't want them to feel that pressure. If they're getting results, the production per exam will go up. That's the proof. If your recall system is getting better, there's one statistic that proves it. Your periodic exams are going up. That means more people are returning more regularly. If it's not going up, it hasn't improved.
Bill, do you see any more success in treatment plan acceptance if the dentist doesn't do it and they have a lot of offices have a treatment plan coordinator?
Not many offices. I mean, orthodontic offices have it.
Right. Why do 90% of orthodontists have one and 90% of general dentists do not?
Well, I wish you could tell me, because here's the thing. I think probably less than 3% of GPs' offices have them. And when they have them, it's just fabulous. But you know what? You can hire a hygienist. You park them in the room, you know what they're supposed to do. You hire an assistant, you know what they're supposed to do. You hire them at the front desk, you don't know what they're supposed to do, but you don't see them not do it or whatever. I mean, they're there. But treatment coordinators like, geez, I don't know. It hasn't formed. And I go, my God, the real purpose of the treatment coordinator is just to hold the patient. Like I had 3 boys go through ortho. Hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and you sit down with Mary Jane. And she says, well, your kid's teeth are crooked. Indeed, they are. Yeah, and it'll be $5,000. Okay. Let me think about this. Do I love my kids? Yes. And you said the teeth were crooked, right? Yeah. And it's $5,000. Yes. And the teeth are crooked and I love them? Yes. Okay. So all the treatment coordinator is doing is sitting with you long enough so you can cycle through this. Well, in dental office, you need a crown someday, or we should do that. You bounce off the front desk. They go, well, you want to do it? No, run a predetermination. I know you haven't got to see you later. Whereas if you just sit down with someone and say, how do you feel about the doctor told you? Well, I'm kind of in shock. Well, I'd be in shock too. You weren't expecting a $1,000 type deal, were you? No. God, I just don't know. And you just hold their hands. I really believe in treatment coordinators, but they're rare as hen's teeth. One of my missions, I think that's one of the next evolutions of practice. Practices that treatment coordinators are truly elite.
Yeah, they're amazing. And if anybody's listening to this that knows one that wants to do a podcast, if you're a dentist, you have this, and you want to go have me podcast interview her, yeah, I mean they're rock stars, because they're getting them to sign the dotted line, and they're collecting the money, and they're closing the deal.
Yeah, but you know what? It's also just humane. I mean, you don't shock someone, send them out, and okay, we want to do this. I mean, it's just you're giving people time to cycle. Sandy Roth years ago talked about, so I really love it. You remember Sandy Roth?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
she'd be a great podcast. Don't you think she'd be a great podcast?
If she's still working.
Well, she wouldn't have to be working. She was a goddess for decades.
Yeah, I know. I saw
Dentistry?
some of hers down at Woody's, and she did this cool thing before and I use it all the time. I'm happy to steal from everyone, but at least I give acknowledgement. But she says when you tell someone something, they go through the stages of grief: shock and denial. This can't be. No one in my family's had gum disease. Anger. This tooth is fine until he touched it. Bargaining. Hey, can I do something? Come on, let's just patch this. And then they go through depression, and then they go through acceptance. So I tell my front desk people, when they come up front to ask the patient, how do you feel about what the doctors recommend? They go, well, I'm bummed out. You go, great, you're almost to acceptance, because you're at least at the bummer stage. You're not in denial. Well, the purpose of the treatment coordinator is to sit with someone long enough so that they can cycle through the emotional acceptance stages, which are real.
So I believe that one of the Achilles tendons of dentistry is that, my assistant Jan's been with me since day one, 28 years. She went to 9 months school to become a dental assistant. The hygienist went to 4 years of college. I went to dental school, and then they hire receptionists off the street, and
Yeah.
there's no receptionist schools. They're the least educated. They're the least employees that we've
The
invested
least
in.
specialized, I'd say.
Yeah, the least specialized. So how do you recommend getting front office ramped up and specialized?
Well, for treatment coordinators, if we're still on that, the best treatment coordinators are an assistant or sometimes a hygienist that can't do hygiene as much because their hands or something. Not all assistants are bent that way. Some assistants just are very non-confrontational. And this can seem confrontational, but again, we try to teach how to take the confrontation out. Hey, there's a train going by.
I know. I love it. I live on I-10. I live right off I-10, and people don't realize that I-10 from Los Angeles goes Los Angeles, Phoenix, Tucson, El Paso, Houston, New Orleans, all the way to Florida. So it's the most busiest rail line there is because your options are I'm either going to sail down 2 weeks of the Panama Canal, pay $150,000 to cross and sail 2 weeks back up, or I'm going to unload it all on the railroad on I-10 and ship it to the other side. So when I go mountain climbing in Arizona, you always nonstop are seeing these trains that are like a mile long, double deckers.
Yeah, it looks like a little HO set. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got probably the worst beating in my life when I was 10, and I was with my little sister Kayleen, and I talked her into we jumped a train in Wichita, Kansas, and we rode it to the next city, and then we didn't realize we'd have to wait a couple hours for one coming back, and then we got home. Everybody was worried, like we're worried, and I said, well, we jumped a train and we went to the next hill that we jumped off, but we didn't realize it'd be a long time. Oh my gosh, my mom and dad just almost they had no problem with me jumping on the train. It was dragging my little sister Kayleen on it. They had a problem with. I think if I would have got killed, they'd have been okay with it. But it was the fact that I drug Kayleen on there. They were about to shoot me. But God,
is that the one that became the nun? Is that the one that became the nun?
No, it was the two oldest ones. Mary Kay and Jean Marie became a nun. Kayleen did not. And my mom.
Asking about the front desk. The way we ramp up front desk is you do it a step at a time. By the way, there's another neat product I really like out there. Rock the Front Desk. It's a really nice training video company, and that person's pretty cool. Also, there's another good case except saying right on downtown. One of my clients, Brian Laskin, just did a segment for you guys in case presentation.
It was amazing. That was the second course he's done for us. How many have you done with us?
Just one.
Oh my God! You got to keep up with Brian Laskin. So who is this rocking the front desk? Who is that?
That I don't know her name, but you just I think rock the front desk. And I don't have any kind of business relationship with her or anything, but I just think it's a really excellent training video. But my associate Shelley Ryan, who you met when you were up here, she's the best consultant in the United States. She's better than I am or anyone else I've seen because she can win people over and yet crack the whip. And she's done, she's been an assistant and stuff like that. So I have some great trainers on my team.
Well, who would I love your stuff because it's all real world. So who can you deliver from your team for another real world rubber hits the pavement podcast?
I think Shelley would be pretty good to talk to. Kelly's my marketeer type, and her, I've drafted her because her dad was getting 150 new patients a month, and he was non-par, and it had a $500,000 a year marketing budget, so she basically had kind of paid training for me, so I drafted her. So I got two good ones.
Will you deliver them both or a podcast with me?
Yeah, if you're okay. Aren't you piled up with those? I
have a waiting list of 300, but I want to do it because I want real world. I mean, I what I can bring to the table is, I've been reading the message boards 4 or 5 hours. I'm addicted to my product. I mean, I'm addicted, and I have the Dental Town app. I can't go an hour without checking the app. So I'm addicted to my product. I still see patients at these 20 years, and I like to find good information. I'm not going to deliver fluff, and there's so much fluff in practice management. I mean, we all heard the deal.
Shelley, we don't really deal in sound bites that much. Shelley keeps it real, so I think that'd be really great. It will be fun to see you two talk.
Yeah, let's do it, and drag up that your other friend who might have left dentistry. She was a rock star for a long time.
Oh, Sandy Ruff.
Yeah, man, she was feisty and truthful.
I don't think she knows me from Adams off Ox, but I knew her. I really liked her stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, great stuff. Well, and then last question because we're over 1 hour, but back to that ideal practice. What is there any, since labor is your number one cost? Is there any ratio like for every dentist? Should there be two assistants or one or three, a hygienist one,
Here's,
two or three,
well,
front
here's
desk?
the way I look at it. Okay, I always think in terms of Peter Drucker's result control. For example, a doctor asks, should I add another assistant? I go, how many extraoperative visits could you comfortably see per day if you had another assistant? And he goes, two or more. I go, it's a done deal because you run the numbers and you go, you're making money. But you're not getting the 4-to-1. If you look at the national statistics, gross wages, not including benefits, 25, 27%. Now, if you want to use Rick Kirshner's model, remember lean and mean, you can keep gross wages low, just don't have a hygiene department. Get rid of your hygiene department, and he didn't have much of one, and you got 10 points off, right? But for the typical practice, it's there. But wherever, so you do want to see a ratio because that's result control. So to flip it, when you add that assistant, if you don't see the doctor's production go up by at least $50 an hour, you don't have result control. And so I always go from where you're at to add an assistant, do this. If you're overstaffed and the statistics show it like you're over 30%, it begs a question, but it isn't necessarily certainly overstaffed. So when you see him fall off the statistics, you look into it, but I never conclude things just based on the statistics. But the answer to your question is every time you add a staff person 4-to-1, but hygiene's 3-to-1, right? So you not add hygiene? Hell, you do. You get 3-to-1. You do it all the time. So my staff wages are 33%. I go, Doc, you're checking 4 hygienists all the time. You got 1 million patients, maybe an associate, but don't cry because your staff salary percentage is high. Look at your net.
And what should the net be? What is it? What is a realistic net?
A realistic net is 35% of collections, but there's lots of variables. And I think that's a realistic. But if you're netting 30% or more, whatever, everything has to be. But anyway, I've got clients with 50% nets, and I got clients with, I suppose, 25% nets. And the idea is that they're moving the right direction. Someone with 50% net usually doesn't have a lot of hygiene.
And I just want to end, because we're 2.5 minutes in overtime, I just want to end on one statement is I hear so many dentists whining.
Yeah.
And look at your paycheck. And then go to the Department of Labor and Economic Statistics.
Yeah.
And so many dentists don't realize what percent income is the average dentist in America. I mean,
what do you mean?
What top percentile of the 330 million Americans?
Oh, it's got to be in the top 2% or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. So that dentist doing 350, that's in the top 1%.
Yeah.
And these dentists are in the top 1% income, don't work evenings or weekends, and aren't going to get killed by a jackhammer or have fall off a boom and they're working with, indoors with air conditioners and nice people, and you're the king of your castle, and if someone's dysfunctional, you don't have to deal with them.
You're not like if you're in medical, you'd be beholden to the suits of the PPOs. Most dentists are still independent. It is really a nice way to make a living. And you know what? There's always been bad news. You went back to this other thing. Tell me about a time there wasn't some impending doom. I remember Avon King stomping around the stage going, you're all going to be bankrupt by 1990.
Is he still alive? He was from Phoenix.
I don't think he is. I don't know. He
passed away?
Yeah, he certainly dropped out of sight.
My favorite patient at today's was this old man. He's about 85, and every time he comes in, I don't know if he doesn't know. He tells me every time and just repeats himself, but he says, "You are so lucky." And I always say, "Why is that, Bernard?" He goes, "I worked for 50 years in a machine shop with 6 ugly men in a barn with no air conditioner, and you live indoors with the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. Oh, my God, I can't believe I worked with 6 men in overalls for half a century." And I look at all my smiling staff. It's like, man, we got it made. It is a hell of a great job. But on that note, we are at 1:04. I got to run. But God dang, thank you so much, Bill, for an hour of your time. And I would so love if you deliver your other two, Shelly and the other one, and you're just real world. How, if someone wants to contact you, how do they contact you?
You can Google my name. I come up pretty well with that, Bill Rossi, or Bill Rossi at advancedpracticemanagement.com.
Is your email Bill Ross? What's your email?
Well, you know what? We just switched it. Just Google my name. That will get you the website, Bill Rossi, or my phone number.
And the website is advancedpracticemanagement.com.
Yeah. And
Just
I think
spell
I'm
it out.
Bill at advancedpracticemanagement.com, but it was Bill Rossi before. And so I think it's Bill at Advanced Practice. Just go to Advanced Practice.
And what's,
And
yeah,
I come up with the
or
number one Bill Rossi, so you can find me.
yeah, and Advanced Practice Managers, APM. I always email you APM at
Yeah.
advancedpracticemanagement.com.
Yeah.
And then when you send me an email, it always pops up in my porn blocker. I don't know why that is.
Well, I'm gonna if I do my B Rossi email, are you getting that? Yeah,
That was that was a joke. That was a joke. I think we were the two most handsome men ever on a podcast in dentistry ever. But hey, Bill, thank you so much for all that you do for your clients, for Dental Town. You're just a hell of a guy. I love you so much.
You too. Thanks for having me, Howard. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Bye.